That girl who kissed me was 10, Lily's friend.
Finally, the truth.
Elena, why did it bother you?
You already know why, Marcus.
The fence between us, a story of unexpected jealousy, hidden feelings, and second chances. Marcus hadn't expected his quiet Saturday morning to turn into the most confusing, heart-racing, emotionally charged day of his entire life. He was just standing at his backyard fence saying a simple goodbye when his neighbor Elena saw something that made her world tilt sideways. One innocent kiss on the cheek, one unguarded expression, one moment that cracked open 2 years of carefully hidden feelings. What happened next shocked them both. Marcus Reeves was 38 years old, and he had become very good at pretending he was fine. Not in a broken way, not in the way of a man who had given up, but in the quiet, disciplined way of someone who had decided that his own happiness was secondary to the happiness of his daughter, and had made peace with that decision every single morning for 3 years running. His wife Natalie had left on a Tuesday, not with a fight, not with screaming, not with any of the dramatic fireworks that at least would have given him something concrete to grieve. She had simply left a note on the kitchen counter. "I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore." And by the time Marcus came home from dropping Lily at school, her closet was half empty and her car was gone from the driveway. Lily had been 7 years old. She had cried for 2 weeks straight and then, with the devastating resilience that only children possess, had gotten up one morning, asked for pancakes, and moved forward. Marcus had taken longer, but he had moved forward too, because Lily needed him to, because the alternative wasn't an option he was willing to consider. He had thrown himself into fatherhood with the focused intensity he usually reserved for structural engineering. His work, which involved calculating the precise load-bearing capacity of buildings, determining exactly how much weight any given structure could hold before it began to fail. There was a private irony in that which he never spoke aloud. Their home was a modest wooden cottage on the edge of a small, leafy town, the kind of place where summers smelled like cut grass and wood smoke, and neighbors left jars of jam on each other's porches without explanation. The house had a back garden that Lily had slowly filled with projects, a small vegetable patch, a bird feeder she'd built herself from a kit, and most recently an ambitious plan to construct what she called a nature museum near the old oak tree. It was a good life, a real life. Marcus held on to that, and right next door, separated by a weathered wooden fence that leaned slightly to the left in one corner, lived Elena. Part 2, the woman who planted things. Elena Morozova had moved into the neighboring cottage 2 years ago, and she had arrived with 3 things: a van full of boxes, a collection of potted herbs that she'd refused to let the movers touch, and the particular quiet dignity of someone who had recently survived something and was not yet ready to talk about it. Marcus had learned over many months of slow conversation that the something had been a long engagement, 5 years, to a man who had been, it turned out, engaged to someone else at the same time. The discovery had not been dramatic. It had been worse than dramatic. It had been quietly, methodically devastating. So Elena had moved. She'd planted a garden. She'd taken on a class of 4-year-olds at the local kindergarten who adored her completely, and drew her pictures of cats and rainbows, and brought her handfuls of dandelions with the gravity of people presenting rare orchids. She had started over, one careful day at a time. She was 35, with auburn hair that moved in the breeze like it was its own living thing, and a smile that arrived slowly and stayed long. The kind of smile that made people feel like whatever they'd just said had been genuinely worth saying. She and Marcus had fallen into friendship the way people fall into rivers in slow-moving country, gradually, almost without noticing, until suddenly you look around and realize the water is quite deep. Weekend mornings at the fence with coffee. Her watching Lily during Marcus's late work calls, the two of them inevitably ending up covered in flour from some ambitious baking project. Him fixing her gate, shoveling her drive after snowstorms, carrying boxes she'd pretended were lighter than they were. Her leaving food on his porch when she made too much, which seemed to happen with suspicious frequency. They talked about books and the particular frustrations of their respective jobs, and what Lily's latest school project was about and whether the oak tree was losing too many branches. They talked about small things and sometimes carefully larger things. They did not talk about the years before they'd each arrived at this quiet street. Not often, not yet. Neither of them ever named what was growing between them, in the careful way that people sometimes refuse to name things they're afraid of losing. Part 3. Sophie's Thank You, Lily's Friend. Sophie was 10 years old, a bright, energetic girl who spoke in exclamation points and had firm opinions about everything from the correct way to build a pillow fort to which type of cloud was the most interesting. She and Lily had been inseparable since the second week of school. When Sophie's mother called Friday afternoon to ask if Sophie could spend the Saturday, Marcus had said yes without hesitation. He liked Sophie. She made Lily laugh in a way that filled the whole house. The girls had spent Saturday in the full and joyful chaos of childhood. Garden running, fort construction, cookie consumption that exceeded all reasonable limits, a brief and passionate disagreement about the rules of a card game they had half invented together, and then a long reconciliation involving more cookies. When Sophie's mother pulled up at 3 in the afternoon, Sophie hugged Lily hard and bounced toward the car. Then she stopped, turned around, and sprinted back to where Marcus was standing at the garden fence. "Thank you so much, Mr. Reeves," she announced, beaming up at him with the complete and uncomplicated gratitude of a happy child, and then she stood on her tiptoes, pressed a quick warm kiss to his cheek and was gone. Running back to the car, climbing in, waving wildly through the window as they pulled away. Marcus stood at the fence with a smile on his face, shaking his head at the small, sweet unexpectedness of children. He started to turn back toward the house, and then he saw Elena. She was standing at her side of the fence, maybe 10 feet away, a woven basket of freshly cut herbs on her arm. She had been walking over, clearly. She had been about to call out a hello. She was not calling out anything. Her face, usually so warm and open, had gone through something complicated and rapid that Marcus barely caught before she controlled it. Her brows had drawn together for just a fraction of a second. Her mouth had pressed into a line. Her eyes had done something, shuddered and deliberate. She recovered almost immediately. The professional kindergarten teacher's composure snapped back into place like a mask. "Oh, Marcus, hi!" Her voice was half a note too bright. "Nice afternoon. Elena, that was just—" But she was already turning. "I should get back inside. The herbs need sorting. Have a good evening." The door of her cottage closed quietly behind her. Marcus stood at the fence, completely still, the pleasant warmth of the afternoon suddenly feeling very strange around him. What just happened? Part 4, 3 days of quiet. The silence was the strangest part. Not absolute silence. Elena wasn't the type for cold shoulders or dramatic gestures. When he saw her, she was perfectly pleasant, polite, friendly even. She smiled when Lily called over the fence to show her a butterfly she'd caught in a jar. She waved when she saw Marcus taking out the recycling. But the easy intimacy of their usual mornings, the coffee, the leaning on the fence, the conversations that started about nothing and wandered somewhere real, simply wasn't there. She was busy. She was tired. She had things to do for 3 days. Lily, who noticed everything, asked on Wednesday evening whether Miss Elena was angry at them. Marcus said no, of course not, but the question lodged in him and stayed. That night he sat on his back porch alone after Lily was asleep, the night air cool and smelling of Elena's roses, because the wind was coming from that direction, and he made himself think clearly about what he'd seen on her face at the fence. He turned it over slowly. The brief flash of something sharp, the controlled retreat, the careful distance since. And then, like a man finally reading the last line of a letter he'd been holding for 2 years, he understood what her face had shown him. Jealousy. Elena had seen a woman kiss him on the cheek and felt jealous. Marcus sat very still with that knowledge, and in the stillness he found something else sitting quietly beside it. Something that had been there for a very long time, waiting patiently to be acknowledged. He was in love with her, not in a sudden way, not in a bolt-from-the-sky way, in the way of something that had grown slowly and steadily from 1,000 small moments. Coffee over a fence, shared laughter, her hand on Lily's shoulder, the way she talked about her kindergartners, the particular way she always listened like what you were saying genuinely mattered to her. He had known, somewhere underneath all his careful practicality, for quite a long time. He had simply decided he had no right to act on it. He had a daughter and grief, and a house with crayon marks on the wall, and no certainty that he was someone worth choosing. Elena had already had her heart handled carelessly once. He wasn't going to risk being the second person to do it. But sitting there in the dark, smelling her roses on the wind, Marcus Reeves asked himself a very direct question. What if you're making that decision for her? What if she's sitting 10 feet away on the other side of a fence, feeling something real, and you're protecting her from something she never asked to be protected from? He sat with that for a long time. Then he went inside and went to bed, and in the morning, he made 2 cups of coffee and walked to the fence. Part 5. What the fence had always held. He waited 20 minutes. He was not going to leave. When Elena's back door finally opened and she stepped out in her gardening clothes with her hair loose around her shoulders, she stopped the moment she saw him standing there. She looked at the 2 cups. She looked at him. Something shifted in her expression, something that looked for just a moment like relief. She crossed the garden and took the cup he held out over the fence. The girl who kissed my cheek, Marcus said, without preamble, without drama, without anything except honesty. Her name is Sophie. She's 10 years old. She's Lily's best friend. She was saying thank you for the playdate. Elena looked at her coffee for a long time. The color that moved across her face was deep and slow. Oh, she said, yeah, silence. A bird somewhere in the oak tree, the smell of her roses and his coffee. Elena, his voice was very quiet. Why did it bother you? She pressed her lips together. She didn't answer right away. When she finally looked up at him, her eyes were bright in a way that had nothing to do with the morning light. You know why, she said, barely a whisper. Marcus put his mug down on the fence post. Slowly, giving her every chance, every exit, he reached across and covered her hand with his. She didn't move away. I have been standing at this fence for 2 years, he said, telling myself that I don't have the right to feel what I feel. That you've already had your heart broken by someone who didn't value it, and the last thing you need is someone coming into your life with old grief, and a 7-year-old, and a to-do list that never ends. Marcus, I've been deciding things for you, he said. Things I had no business deciding, and I think I've been wrong about that. Elena looked at his hand over hers. She turned her hand over slowly until her fingers were laced through his. Lily drew me a picture, she said softly. About 3 weeks ago, she drew both of our houses. She put me in front of mine and you in front of yours and herself in the middle between the 2 fences. She paused. She labeled it my family. Marcus felt something open in the center of his chest, wide and warm and entirely unstoppable. She never showed it to me, he said. No. Elena smiled. I think she was showing me instead. I think she was telling me something she thought I needed to hear. Smart kid. The smartest. They stood there at the fence in the morning light, hands held across the weathered wood, neither of them needing to say anything more, because some things, once finally named, don't need elaboration. They simply need to be allowed to exist. Epilogue. Where the roses grew on a Saturday 3 weeks later, Lily came out into the back garden carrying a small rosebush in a terracotta pot, both hands wrapped carefully around it, tongue between her teeth in concentration. She walked directly to the corner of the fence, the leaning left corner, where Marcus and Elena always stood with their morning coffee, and set it down. Help me plant it here, she told them both, with the calm authority of someone who had clearly been planning this for some time, so it can grow on both sides. Marcus and Elena exchanged a look over the top of her head. They both knelt down in the grass beside her, and together, the 3 of them dug a small hole in the earth, set the roots in carefully, and pressed the soil back around them with their hands. When it was done, Lily stood up, brushed the dirt from her palms, examined the rosebush with satisfaction, and went back inside. Marcus and Elena stayed kneeling in the grass for a moment longer. She planned that, Elena said. Absolutely she did, Marcus agreed. He reached over and brushed a streak of soil from Elena's cheek with his thumb. She leaned just slightly into his hand. The fence was still there, but it had stopped being a boundary a long time ago. It was just the place where 2 lives, planted on either side, had grown quietly toward each other until their roots were completely and permanently intertwined. Sometimes jealousy isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the heart finally admitting what it's been afraid to want. And sometimes all it takes is 2 cups of coffee, an honest conversation, and a 10-year-old's innocent goodbye kiss to change 2 lives forever.